were planning out season 2 of the podcast, I always check in with my business manager, Emily, for ideas, and we were just bouncing ideas off of each other, and she mentioned maybe I should do something about mindset. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like I'm definitely not going to do that. I just don't love talking about mindset, and I don't know, I would much rather talk about like the step-by-step thing that I'm working on right now and give you guys all the actionable tips. However, I know that mindset is important, but it's just not something that I think about a lot, and I don't feel like I'm an expert at mindset. But I was going back through the communities for our different programs and looking at questions, and a lot of the questions revolve around mindset and imposter syndrome and just the things that all business owners go through. So I really took a step back and thought about, okay, I have felt all of the things that all of these other people have felt. How did I overcome them, or kind of what tips can I provide to help someone who is feeling like that? So I thought of 3 tips, 3 kind of, I don't even know if they're tips. They're just things that I have personally done that help me when I am feeling imposter syndrome, which, by the way, I still feel that all the time. And I don't know if that makes you feel better or worse, because you're thinking, oh my gosh, she's been doing this for years and she still feels like that, so I'm still going to feel like that. But it never really goes away. It doesn't matter how much money you make or how many programs you sell or how successful you are. There's always going to be that voice in the back of your head that isn't 100% for you. And it's okay. It's just human nature. So here are kind of 3 things that I have done to deal with imposter syndrome, and they're probably different than you think. So number 1 is accept the imposter syndrome. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to stop it. And I feel like that's probably different than what a lot of mindset coaches teach. But I have found that it's not going to go away, no matter how much work I do on my mindset or how many books I read about imposter syndrome. It's always going to be there, at least for me. And again, this is just my personal experience. I am not a mindset expert. I am a get things done and don't worry about how you feel kind of person. Not always a good thing, by the way, but that's just who I am. And I feel like I just accept that, I a lot of times feel like I'm not good enough to do this, or why me, or why would someone buy from me? Or when I create a new product, like I'm about to launch a new product very soon. Actually, when this episode airs, it will already have been launched, the Hey Digital Product Playbook. And as I am creating it now, I still get the feeling like, what if nobody buys? Or is this even good enough to sell? And I know it is, and I know I've put in so much work, and I know that it's worked for me, but it doesn't matter. Every time I launch something new, or every time I have a launch of a program that I've created, I always get that feeling. And instead of trying to fight it, or instead of saying, I just need to stop feeling that way, that almost makes it worse for me. If I just accept it and say, yeah, I feel like this sometimes. I feel like this a lot of times, but I'm going to do the thing anyway. Then if I just keep going and keep moving forward, instead of dwelling on this negative, this false feeling of being not good enough, it's when I keep going and I don't stop and think about it too much that I am successful, and it typically works out. Now, I'm not saying that I haven't had failed launches. I talked about plenty of launch failures in season 1. If you want to go back and listen to all my mistakes, please do that. But it doesn't matter, because every time that things don't go exactly my way, I'm learning something and I continue to keep going. And that is what separates successful people from not successful people. Is successful people have failures, but they keep going. They keep trying. They shift. They try something new. They use the data, and they don't get emotionally attached to the data, but they look at it objectively, scientifically, and they make adjustments based on what happened. So maybe that's because I'm not like a super in my feels kind of person, and I'm just like, here's my checklist, let's get it done, we're going to do this. I don't know, but that is what has worked for me. So that's number 1. Just accept that you're going to feel inadequate at times, a lot of times, all of the time, maybe right now. It's going to be there no matter how successful you get. So don't think, if I just make this amount of sales, or if I just make this amount of money, or if I just get here, then I won't feel this way anymore. It's not true. You're going to feel like that. You just got to keep doing it anyway, and it's going to be okay. So there's number one. Number two is don't wait until you feel like it's perfect. Because again, you're always going to feel like something is not quite up to par, especially if you struggle with perfectionism like I do. It's always going to be there. Don't try to wait until it's perfect. Just throw things out there and see what sticks. I do that all the time, and a lot of times it doesn't work, and I try something else. I had a business coach last year, Rachel Ingolm. She was on the podcast, and she always says, take messy action. Don't wait until it's perfect, because it's never going to be perfect. You just got to take some action. Otherwise, you're never going to move forward. So throw some stuff out there, see what happens, throw a digital product out there, do it the right way, and get some mentorship, and make sure that you are doing market research, but don't feel like it has to be perfect before you release it into the world. All right, so that's number two. And then number three is don't keep your blinders on. I know a lot of people say keep your blinders on, and I've said that before too, and I think it depends on the situation, but success leaves clues. And if you're trying to move forward and you're feeling like you're inadequate, then you may feel the need to not look at people who are successful or who are way ahead of you, because you feel like you're never going to get there. You feel inadequate. You feel imposter syndrome. However, I don't think that it is beneficial for you to just not pay attention at all to what successful people are doing, because like I said, success leaves clues, and what they are doing is obviously working. So check out what they're doing. Check out the offers that they have. Potentially get some mentorship from them. If it's someone who is successful and you want what they have, see if they offer coaching, one-on-one coaching or group coaching. That's what I did with Rachel Ingolm. She had the business that I wanted. And I could have looked at her and said, oh my gosh, she is a multimillionaire. She works 10 hours a week. She has 2 kids like me, but she just has this perfect life. I could have looked at that and said, I'm never going to get there. Why even bother? Instead, I listened to all her podcast episodes, and I reached out to her and said, hey, I want to do coaching with you. So I signed up for a year of coaching with her, and it was very much out of my price range at the time. Like, it was the most I've ever spent on anything related to my business. But it was the most transformational year in my business by far. I went to France with her. I met all of these other amazing women. I met Deb, who was also on the podcast, who helped me, completely overhaul the systems in my business so that I could take a full maternity leave and really work less than I had ever done. So I think that there's probably a good balance. You don't want to obsess over what other people are doing. You also don't want to copy exactly what other people are doing. I was talking about this the other day on the Instagram stories, that just because you see a successful person doing something doesn't mean that it's working for them. For example, I 2 years ago branched off from my teacher business to start Meet the Bowdens. And if you listen to season 1 of the podcast, that's what it was all about, was Meet the Bowdens and courses. And I really didn't talk about teachers at all. And so then I had myself working double, because I had 2 businesses and 2 Instagrams and 2 email lists and 2 websites. And it was very overwhelming, even with a team. And I kept feeling this pull to simplify and to bring it back to just one business. And I really prayed and thought about how I could best do that. And I finally came to the realization that it can all be under the same umbrella, because I'm helping teachers, I'm helping moms. They all want to create digital products, whether that's educational resources to sell on TPT, whether that's courses or memberships to sell on their own website, whether that's other smaller ticket digital products. And we're talking about all of that on the podcast. But it all falls under that umbrella of digital products. And so this year I have merged the 2 back together. And let me tell you, big headache, a big tech headache. I had to merge my 2 websites, and my website was down for like a week, including my courses, and no one could log in. Just a lot of things that I didn't think about when I decided to merge everything. Like my YouTube channels I had to merge, and my Instagrams I had to merge. And anyway, I say all that to say that was not a smart business decision on my part to do the 2 businesses, but I didn't know until I did it. And now that I've done it and I'm bringing it back together, I learned that But I don't want you to think that whatever someone is doing who is successful, that is the right way. That's why getting mentorship from them and learning from them and seeing the mistakes they make, that's what is important. So keep your blinders on, if you're obsessing over what other people are doing. But remember, success leaves clues. And so getting mentorship from someone who you believe in and align with and, kind of has the business that you want, I think is really important. So I think that's a good way to really combat that imposter syndrome that you're never going to get to where they are. Well, you might if you learn from them. So just to kind of recap, 3 ways that I have kind of dealt with imposter syndrome and feeling not good enough. The first is just to accept that it's always going to be there, no matter how far you get in your business. Accept it and then keep going. Number 2 is don't wait until something is perfect to put it out there, like a digital product or an educational resource or a course. Put it out there and see what sticks. It might not work, but you can learn from the data and keep going. And then number 3, don't always keep your blinders on. Find successful people that you align with and see if you can get mentorship from them. Learn from their mistakes. Get coaching. Join a group coaching program. I always think it's really, really smart to invest in your business, no matter what level you're at, to learn from people who are where you want to be. All right, so don't let that imposter syndrome hold you back. You are so smart and you are going to be so successful. You just got to keep going. Even when bad things happen, they're going to happen. Keep going. You got this. I'll see you guys next week.